Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Charana Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringara Tanama Diramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swatana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swatana Triptan Kridvaiva Triptin Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Kridvaiva Triptin Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Shiradikama Gabayarapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Pratikshana Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Ne Kunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Bhiri Yukti Apekshaniya Tatratidaksha Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charana Vrindam Sakyat Bharitena Samastasha Shri Uktastatha Bhavyataiva Sadhavi Sakyat Bharitena Samastasha Shri Uktastatha Kintu Prabhorja Priyaiva Tasya Bande Guru Shri Charanara Vrinda Kinto Prabhoya Priyaiva Tasya Bande Guru Shri Charanara Sya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Sya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasha Prasada Jayam Stuvam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Bande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Jayam Stuvam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Bande Guru Shri Jayam Stuvam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Bande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Dhyam Stuvam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Bande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itina Mine Nama Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatya Dishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhara Shivasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hariyaraye Namah Krishna Jadavaye Namah Jadavaye Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govindaram Shrimadhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Shri Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Shri Radha Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Ramanande Hari Bol Jai Vishwapara Paramhansa Prabhashakacharya Ashtutara Sarasi Shrimad ISKCON Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Daita Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Bhojravina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patiti Udhara Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauru Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Pramanama Sankirtane Kajanaka Prema Purushottam Shri Sachinandana Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gauru Hari Mahavranaya Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jai Ki Jai Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihatandanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopakupna Radha Kund Samakund Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathur Dham Ki Jai Their Lordship Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakra Dham Ki Jai Paramakaruna Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottama Kitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smati Subhadra Dev Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kan Shingari Bhagavan Ki Jai Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Vrindi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे। All glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories, glory to Shri Shri Guru, Shri Gaurang.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladaladaini. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narasimho Parato Narasimho. Yeto yeto yami tato Narasimho.
Jatto jatto yami tato
Narasimho. Bhahe Narasimho Hrudaye Narasimho. He Narasimho Narasimhavadim Sharanam Prapade. Simhavadim Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakha Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brunga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Tava Karaka Kamalavare Nakha Adbhuta Shringa Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brunga Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Narasimhadev Mahadev Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Narasimhadev Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंह स्वामी भगवान की जय। भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय।
विष्णु भक्ति प्राणी सतभक्ताय नमः। वृंदायै तुलसी बाई प्रियायै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्राणी सतभक्ताय नमो नमः। वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियायै केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्राणिदेवी सतभक्ताय नमो नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी।
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 जे तो मारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरा न हो।
जे तुम्हारा शरणला तारा वंच पूर्णा
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी
तुम्हें कृपा करी कर तारे वृंदावन वासी
मोराए अभिलाष दिलास कुंज दियो वास
मोराए अभिला विलास कुंज दियवा
नयने हरि वो सदा युगल रूपरासी
अमिनायने रिबो सदा जुगल रूपरासी
निवेदना धारो साखीरनुगाता कोरो
निवेदनाधार सकीरयनो गाताकार
सेवा अधिकारा दिए गुरु निज दासी
सेवा यादि कर दिए कर निज दासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोरा होए
दीना कृष्ण दास कोई ऐ मोरा
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा नवासी
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा नवासी
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यानि कानिशा तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
Jai. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Bai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Bai Priyai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you, his wish is fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavya Mrs. of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. For this very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always sing in love Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki Jai. Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadava Nirvapanam Shri Akari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Ananda Mudivardhanam Kadipadam Punamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Vidadishitava Kripaya Bhagavan Namapi Durdhaivam Idrisham Ya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitamba Jagarisha Kamaye Mama janmane janmaneshwari bhavatar bhaktirahaitu kitvayi ainandatanu kinkaram patitamam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya tapapar pankaja sthita dhuli sadrisham vichintaya nayanam galorashrudharaya vadanam gadugadarudhaya gira pulakarnichitam vapukada tavanama grahane bhavishyati yogaitam nimishena chakshusha pravrusya shunya itam jagata sarvam govinda virahe name aslishavapadaраtam pinashtumam adarshanar marmahatam karotuva jatha tathava vidadhatu lampato matpranat tastu saivana para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishnam Ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvesha Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shrunavadi Vatsatari Satarine. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart over the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, we enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord on straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion and service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when the hairs of my body stand on the end the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and sure remains so. Even if he sandals me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishnam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees whose dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures and pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7 is to commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. Do not have complete faith in chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas devoted to the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Devancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutili Srimati Bhaktivinoda Swamita. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Devi Sesa Sundari Paskatya Desatari. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapritam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Visakha Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pasyatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shiva Savanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namaste Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Jase Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Jayatam Suratar Bangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Dumadha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihiso Manas Varami Shiman Rasa Rasaran Bhivam Sivatata Tastitakar San Venus Swanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestana Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanastute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karana Chantamani Prakara Sadma Sakalpa Riksha Laksha Vritesha Surabhira Vipalianta Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Madhyavam Siratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribangalalita Nita Prakasam Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adhyam Purana Purisham Navayovanancha Vedesh Durlava Madurlava Matma Bhakto
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampagam Yovayura Tapi Manasomani Pungamana So Piasti Yat Prapadasim Yavichintia Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Kopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim Yes Chakti Rasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadanta Andanta Rasta Paramana Chayanta Rastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanyana Busa Suktarya Mevinivigo Patitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavita Abhistabirya Evinichi Rupa Daya Kalabi Goloka Evinusata Kilatma Bhutto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochana Nisantaksa Deva Hidesa Viloka Antiyam Sham Sundanam Chintya Gulaswarupa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ramadi Murti Sukilani Menitista Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesa Kinta Swai Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramam Pumanyo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagananda Koti Kotisva Sesa Vasadari Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskanam Anantama Sesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Mayahi Yasya Jagananda Satani Sutes Dragon Yatad Visaya Vida Vitayamana Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasuya Praninam Prativilam Smartamupetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Goloka Namni Nijitamni Tale Chitasya Devi Maheswari Dhamma Sute 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 Te Prabhavani Jaya Vitashtiyan Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Sistista Tipalaya Sada Vasaktireka Chayevi Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichana Rupamapi Yasya Chitesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Siram Kada Dadivikara Visesi Yoga Sanjayatena Itata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambutama Pitata Sampaitikaya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Departure Vida Santam Abhyapetya Dipayate Vidahetu Samanu Dharma Yastadrike Vihircha Vishnu Bad Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupadhara Saktam Avalambya Paramsamurtam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivante Loma Villaja Jagannatha Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Seso Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalation Ejesa Tejas Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayata Pitat Pratatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Binadaya Kumbha Dwande Pranamasama Yesa Kanadi Raja Vignam Vidhanta Malamasya Jagatraya Se Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Agni Mahika Ganama Bumarudi Sasha Kalasa Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmat Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yaschak Suresa Savitaj Sakalagrahano Raja Samasta Suramurti Sesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kalachakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Dharmoto Papa Nijaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Pataka Vitesa Jiva Yadata Matari Bhava Bhagata Bhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yastinda Gopa Matavenda Mahosvakama Pandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidharti Kintichi Bhakti Bhaja Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yam Kroda Kamasa Japranaya Debite Vatsaya Mohagurguru Vasivya Bhavi Sanchintya Tasha Sadhusantara Mapure Tishriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurisha Kalpatara Umabu Mischintama Niganama Ito Yamamrita Kataganam Natyam Gamanama Pivam Sipriyasa Kichiranandam Joti Param Abhitada Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Siradi Bishavadi Siradi Vyasta Sumahani Mesa Dakyuvava Jitiria Natrapitsama Yas Bajiswita Dipram Tamaham Ihikola Kamitiam Vidantaste Santakshiti Viracharya Katipate Shri Guru Vastaka prayers Gijay. Spiritual messages receiving benediction from the ocean mission. Just as the crowd closed for order and fast right to extinguish it, says spiritual message delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. From my respectful basis, not the lotus feet, such spiritual master. There's an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing, actually singing, playing music. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. From my respectful basis, not the lotus feet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship. Shisha Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. Yes, the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments clean their temple and perform other similar worship of the Lord. From my respectful basis, on the lotus feet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotee is satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad, he is satisfied. From my respectful basis, on the lotus feet, such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal Master and Radhika Madhava and the qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master inspires the relatives in every moment. However, my respectful based on the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. However, my most humble and based on the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I am respectful based on the lotus feet of such spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, no one receives the benediction of Krishna without the grace of the spiritual master. No one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Raj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, verse number 49 again. Yavad balim te jaharamakale yata vayam chanam adama yatra yato baye samta imahi loka balim haranto nanam adantya anuha. Yavat, as it may be, balim, offering, te, your, aja, O unborn one, harama, shall offer, kale, at the right time, yata, as much as, vayam, we, cha, also, anam, food grains, adama, shall partake, yatra, whereupon, yata, as much as, ubaya some, both for you and for us. Te, all, ime, these, he, certainly, loka, living entities, balim, offerings, haranta, while offering, anam, grains, adanti, eat, anuha, without disturbance. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O unborn one, please enlighten us regarding the ways and means by which we can offer you all enjoyable grains and commodities so that both we and all other living entities in this world can maintain ourselves without disturbance and can easily accumulate the necessities of life, both for you and for ourselves. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Developed consciousness begins from the human form of life and further increases in the forms of the demigods living in higher planets. The earth is situated almost in the middle of the universe, and the human form of life is the via median between the life of the demigods and that of the demons. The planetary systems above the earth are especially meant for the higher intellectuals called demigods. They are called demigods because although their standard of life is far more advanced in culture, enjoyment, luxury, beauty, education, and duration of life, they are always fully God conscious. Such demigods are always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord because they are perfectly aware of the fact that every living entity is constitutionally an eternal subordinate servitor of the Lord. They also know that it is the Lord only who can maintain all living entities with all the necessities of life. The Vedic hymns, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kama, Ta Enam Abruvan Ayatanam Na Prajanihi Yasmin Pratistita Anam Adame, etc., confirm that this truth. In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord is mentioned as Bhutabrit, or the maintainer of all living entities, or all living creatures. The modern theory that starvation is due to an increase in population is not accepted by the demigods or the devotees of the Lord. The devotees or demigods are fully aware that the Lord can maintain any number of living entities provided they are conscious of how to eat. If they want to eat like ordinary animals who have no God consciousness, then they must live in starvation, poverty, and want, like the jungle animals in the forest. The jungle animals are also maintained by the Lord with their respective foodstuffs, but they are not advanced in God consciousness. Similarly, human beings are provided with food, grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk by the grace of the Lord, but it is the duty of human beings to acknowledge the mercy of the Lord. As a matter of gratitude, they should feel obliged to the Lord for their supply of foodstuff and then partake of the remnants. In Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is confirmed that one who takes foodstuff after a performance of sacrifice eats real food for proper maintenance of the body and soul. But one who cooks for himself and does not perform any sacrifice eats only lumps of sin in the shape of foodstuffs. Such sinful eating can never make one happy or free from scarcity. Famine is not due to an increase in population, as less intelligent economists think. When human society is grateful to the Lord for all his gifts for the maintenance of the living entities, then there is certainly no scarcity or want in society. But when men are unaware of the intrinsic value of such gifts from the Lord, surely they are in want. A person who has no God consciousness may live in opulence for the time being due to his past virtuous acts. But if one forgets his relationship with the Lord, certainly he must await the stage of starvation by the law of the powerful material nature. One cannot escape the vigilance of the powerful material nature unless he leads a God-conscious or devotional life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol. So, effectively in the third chapter, 13th verse, it says, Yajna Sisastena Santo Uchante Sarvakilbasai Bunjate Te Tvakam Papa Ye Pachanti Atmakaranat. So this is a very important verse. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. And in the purport it says, the devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas, and they are always in love with the Lord, as it is described in the Brahma Samhita 5:38, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidaya Suvilokanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. The santas being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yagyas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, etc. And these performances of yagyas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and a sinner? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yagya in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. Okay, so this congregational chanting the holy names is highly recommended, along with offering one's food to the Lord and also accepting prasadam offered to the Lord. This is very important because people would say, "Oh, what's the big thing about eating? Everybody eats." No, there's a way to eat, and you have to offer the food first. Recognize the mercy of Krishna and recognize your dependence on Krishna for the food, and thank the Lord for supplying this food. And then, once the Lord is satisfied by the offering, he offers it back as his prasadam, or his mercy. So therefore, the devotee always lives by the mercy of the Lord. He never forgets that. He or she never forgets that. So, there's a science how to eat. There's a science what foods to eat. There's a science of how to prepare it for the pleasure of Krishna. So all these things have to be learned. Animals, they just eat. But genuine devotees, they follow the science of eating, and the science of sleeping, and the science of waking up, and the science of working, and the science of the soul, and the science of Krishna consciousness. So devotees are the real scientists. The so-called scientists, they're a bunch of mostly nonsense people. So their science is incomplete. The devotee science is complete. It includes eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. There's a correct way of doing these things and an incorrect way. So that's what the Bhagavad Gita is doing. It's telling us what is the correct way to live our life. Like, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, later on in the 3rd chapter, it says, verse number 27, Pakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasa Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaham Itimanyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. So, the devotee understands that he's not independent. But what is he dependent on? He's dependent on Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is the what you would call real owner and controller of the material nature. So, therefore, also for the science of action in Krishna consciousness is explained. Yajnarta karmano nyatra lokomam karma bandhanai tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. So it explains this is the science of how to act. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, Arjuna, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So you see, these are all advice of how to live, how to eat, how to sleep, how to mate, how to defend. All these things are explained by Krishna in detail in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the purport it says, since one has to work even for the simple maintenance of the body, the prescribed duties for a particular social position and quality are so made that that purpose can be fulfilled. Well, everybody has a social position and quality. So what are the qualities? Well, qualities are related to 3 modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So the devotees try to always live in the mode of sattva guna, and hopefully by proper execution of duties, so our occupational duties, that is dharma. So dharma is you are going to be born, you get old, you get sick, and you die. And during that period, there's a purpose. The purpose is not sense gratification. It is understanding your eternal relationship with Krishna and then acting in that relationship and gradually developing love for the Lord. And when that love is mature and you're fully engaged in the service of the Lord, you go back to Godhead. So there's a purpose for the material world. The purpose is not sense gratification. The purpose is what I just described. And Krishna is doing everything to encourage people to follow this progressive path to go back to Godhead, where we all came from. So, to become Krishna conscious is the perfection of human life. And unless we realize that, we will dilly-dally throughout life. A little bit of this, a little bit of Krishna consciousness, a little bit of Maya, a little bit of Krishna consciousness, a little bit of Maya. And we don't make any real spiritual advancement. We make a little bit, but then it's nullified by the little bit of nonsense that we do. So a little bit of this and a little bit of that equals zero. Actually not, in the sense that whatever devotional service you do, you get the benefit of it eternally. But most people, they don't take that seriously. So they mix things, and therefore they don't reach the goal, at least in this lifetime. Okay, so Prabhupada therefore says, all sacrificial performances also are meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. The Vedas enjoin Yajno Vai Vishnu. In other words, the same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serves Lord Vishnu. Krishna consciousness is therefore performance of yajna as it is prescribed in this verse. The Varnashrama institution also aims at satisfying Lord Vishnu. Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parak Pumam Vishnur Aradyate. Vishnu Purana 3.8.8. Therefore, one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Any other work done in this material world will be a cause of bondage. For both good and evil work have their reactions, and any reaction binds the performer. That means good or bad reactions. Both are binding. It's not that the good is not binding and the bad is binding. They're both binding, as long as we have a personal motive. If our only motive is to please Krishna, then that's different. But if our motive is to please ourselves, just like Arjuna's motive not to fight was to please himself. Therefore, Krishna did not accept that. So, if Krishna did not accept that in the case of Arjuna, he's not going to accept it in our case also. So if we say, well, I have to take care of this thing or that thing, I don't have time to do this service. So one time a devotee told Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I'm so engaged in your service, I don't have time to chant my rounds. Prabhupada asked him a question. He says, do you eat? He said, yes. And do you sleep? He said, yes. Therefore, you can stop eating and sleeping and chant your rounds, right? He said, if you're not eating and sleeping and still you cannot chant your rounds, then it's okay. But if you're eating and sleeping and not chanting your rounds, it's not okay. You see? So he has these two questions. You're so busy you don't have no time to chant your rounds, but are you sleeping? Yes. Are you eating? Yes. Then you do have the time. So stop eating and sleeping. Then you have an excuse not to chant your rounds, right? I say, Prabhupada is so smart. He knows how to pierce all the balloons of ignorance. Okay. Nothing should be performed for sense gratification. No, or before that it says, one should therefore act very diligently under the expert guidance of a devotee of Lord Krishna. or under the direct instruction of Lord Krishna himself, under whom Arjuna had the opportunity to work. Nothing should be done for the satisfaction. It says, nothing should be performed for sense gratification, but everything should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. This practice will not only save one from the reaction of work, but also gradually elevate one to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, which alone can raise one to the kingdom of God. So, everything is aimed at attaining the loving service of the Lord. That is the sign that you are successful in Krishna consciousness, or that we are successful. Okay, so now there's more information about this. In the 17th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, it explains. It says, (17:7). Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Foods dear to those in a mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Whoa. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. The purpose of food, purport, the purpose of food is to increase the duration of life, purify the mind, and aid bodily strength. This is its only purpose. In the past, great authorities selected those foods that best aid health and increase life's duration, such as milk products, sugar, well, it means sugar that is unrefined, like gur or jaggery, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk or other foods. Yeah, I take molasses every day, blackstrap molasses, because it's full of iron, vitamin C, and B vitamins. Right? So, and iron is necessary for making blood. So especially women, they're always iron deficient because they have periods where they lose blood on a regular basis. So it's very important for women. Most women are iron deficient in the United States. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, while not very palatable in themselves, can be made pleasant when mixed with milk and other foods. They are then in the mode of goodness. All these foods are pure by nature. They are quite distinct from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Fatty foods, as mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for the killing of innocent creatures. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Protein is amply available through split peas, dal, whole wheat, etc. So everything's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's teaching us what to eat, how to sleep, how to mate. Everything is there. Foods in the mode of passion, which are bitter, too salty, or too hot, or overly mixed with red pepper cause misery by reducing mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. Now, did you know that you have naturally mucus in the stomach? Did you know that? Yeah, because that mucus, and by the way, everybody produces a quart and a half of mucus a day, approximately. Why? It's to line the nasal passages. Because let's say you're somewhere where it's very dusty and you're breathing, so you're going to breathe it. So hopefully you're not breathing through the mouth, you're breathing through the nose. The nose will catch all that dust. And you'll see that. So if you blow your nose after roaming around on a dusty day, you'll see that the black soot or the dust was caught by the mucus. It was sort of liquefied somewhat, and now it's coming out of your nose when you blow your nose. Right? So it's very important. Otherwise, it's all going to go into your lungs. You see. And secondly, the stomach is protected from stomach acid or hydrochloric acid, which your body produces in order to digest proteins. Right? So, in order that your stomach doesn't burn, sometimes when people have too much of an acid diet, and mead, coffee, tea, all those things leave an acid residue. So if you don't have enough mucus in the stomach, it'll burn a hole in your stomach or in the intestinal tract, and then you're in real trouble, especially if you have a hole in the intestinal tract. You can get what's called sepsis. Look that up, sepsis, S-E-P-S-I-S. Sepsis means that your whole blood system is infected with disease. You can die very easily. What's it say? Sepsis, S-E-P-S-I-S. What's it say?
It is a life-threatening complication of an infection. It occurs when chemicals released in the bloodstream to fight an infection trigger inflammation throughout the body. This can cause a cascade of changes that damage multiple organ systems, leading them to fail, sometimes even resulting in death.
It's very serious. It's also caused by these holes that are burned, either in the stomach or in the intestinal tract. And then the stool goes into the blood system. And, the bacteria in the stool, all that stuff. Okay, so mucus is important. It's not a bad thing. When it becomes hard, sticky, and looks yellowish and smells bad, that means you're sick, right? The mucus became infected by a disease. So then you have to basically fast. Then your body can fix it. If you don't fast, you keep eating, it just doesn't go away. You're coughing all the time. You're spitting up mucus that's all crappy, and and then if you have a cough, you're trying to cough up mucus that's stuck in the stomach, but it's not coming out. Therefore, your cough just stays and stays and stays. And the only way to get rid of it is by fasting, and taking a lot of liquids to somehow or other dilute that hard-packed mucus in the stomach. Okay, so remnants of food may be eaten only when they are part of a meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness, and they increase infection or disease. That meaning eating foods that are more than 3 hours, baked or made more than 3 hours before. So traditionally in India, people never ate leftovers. They always distributed them to other people, like poor people, so that no one would go hungry. But they never kept the leftover food, because it was they just know that you don't leave it, even though it may even be prasadam, but they would always just make sure always cook fresh every day. Such foods, meaning leftover foods or remnants, although very palatable to persons in the mode of darkness, are neither liked nor even touched by those in the mode of goodness. The best food is the remnants of what is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Lord says that he accepts preparations of vegetables, flour, and milk when offered with devotion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts, but it is also mentioned that the prasadam should be prepared in a particular way. Any food prepared by the injunctions of the scripture and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long, long ago, because such food is transcendental. Therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, see, everything is in the Bhagavad Gita. The science how to eat, the science how to offer it to God, the science how to sleep, everything is there. So, the modern theory that starvation is due to an increase in population is not accepted by the demigods or the devotees of the Lord. Yeah, why? Because that's a phony theory by Malthus, this English economist. He said that the population will always exceed the food that's available, and therefore it's the cause of wars and other things like that. And then people like Bill Gates and Mr. Fauci and Mr. Grouchy and other people like that, they pay the Chinese to create biological weapons to kill people because they think that there's too many people on the earth. Now someone would say, oh, Hari Vilas is speculating. How can that be true? Bill Gates is such a nice guy. He's not a nice guy. And Grouchy or Fauci is not a nice guy either. And they are funding the Chinese to do experimentation that's outlawed in the United States. The United States is not supposed to engage in biological weapons. Right? They're very dangerous. But China, everything goes for money, right? So they make the COVIDs and the chicken flu and this flu and that flu. They're being made artificially in in Wuhan laboratory, funded by the United States. So why? Because there are a lot of people believe that there's too much population. Therefore, they have promoted what you would call abortion. By the way, the United States pays for abortion. When Trump became president, he stopped it right away. And then, so when Biden took over, the first thing he did, the day he took over, was stop Trump's, let's say, to stop the no more abortion rule, and again, fund abortion in the United States and overseas. American money goes for abortion overseas also, in like India and Africa and other places like that. And they're also supported. Why don't you look that up? Does Bill Gates Foundation fund abortion through Planned Parenthood and in America and other countries in the world? And does the United States fund abortion in America and outside of America? So okay, let's say it in the microphone.
It says Bill and
Melinda Gates.
Yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation expands Planned Parenthood Federation programs with 1.7 million gift. So they're giving the money there. So they're essentially doing 4 partnerships. The Peruvian Institute of Responsible Fatherhood, that's in Lima, Peru, and Latin America. And then Salvadorian Demographic Association, Jamaica Family Planning Association, that's in New York-based organization, and Pro Familia, that's in Dominican Republic, and Columbia University Center, that's also in New York City. So these are some of the, and then one of the priorities of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is to improve the health of women in the developing countries. So they're funding some other things such as human rights violation and public health problems.
No, but anyway, they are sending money for abortion in the United States as well as in other countries, right? Now, the United States is doing the same thing. The government is doing the same thing.
Yeah, this is directly in the.
You have something?
Yeah, I was looking in the Gates Foundation website itself, and they have this family planning our goal. We are working to empower women and girls to take charge of their own health, enabling them to make informed decisions about family planning and have access to contraceptive options that meet their needs. There is this accredited social health activist in Uttar Pradesh, India. They have a picture of there also, like how they are distributing.
I
those
bet you they're
contraceptives and-
smiling.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
have killed so
Yes.
many young babies.
yeah, the lady is also smiling. And then there's at a glance they have like a bunch
Speak
of.
louder. Hold the microphone
Oh.
closer to your mouth.
Yeah, so they are committing about $280 million per year from year 2021 to 2030 to develop new and improved contraceptive technologies, support
This
family.
is Bill Gates.
This is the Gates
Yeah,
Foundation.
Yeah,
Bill and Melinda Gates
they are
Foundation.
spending $280 million to kill babies.
Yeah.
No, you see, that's Bill Gates Foundation. Now look at the United States government; they're doing it even bigger. See. Okay, so now we started talking yesterday about Einstein. I want to continue. So we only covered one point that Einstein had wrong, and that was he did not believe in a personal God who concerns himself with the fates, F-A-T-E-S. That means it basically means the previous karma of a person that's acting now in the present life, right? That's fate, F-A-T-E. And then destiny is the karma that they're doing now, that for which they're going to may suffer even in this life or the next life. Okay, so fate is the previous karma, previous life's karma or lives karma, and destiny is karma that one is creating now, for which one may suffer now or may suffer in the future. Okay, so we explained how that he was completely wrong on that, but there's a lot more now. So, for example, Einstein believes in the pantheistic God of Baruch Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza was, I think, 17th century, 1600s, Jewish philosopher that lived in the Netherlands or lived in Amsterdam, one of those places. And Einstein thought he was the smartest guy in the whole world, the greatest philosopher that ever existed. But now we're going to hear how wrong he was, how wrong Spinoza was, and how wrong Einstein was. And also, secondly, Einstein did not believe in a personal God who concerns himself with fates and action of human beings. Third, he stated that he is an agnostic or religious non-believer. Now try and figure that out, a religious non-believer. And then 4, he did not believe in life after death. And 5, he was closely involved with several humanist groups. Now, we've explained what humanism is. They strictly reject the existence of God. So now we're going to hear who Einstein's guru was, one of his gurus, and that was Mr. Spinoza, right? So in the dialectic spiritualism, let's see, what time is it now? Yeah. So, devotee tells Prabhupada, Spinoza asserts that God cannot be a remote cause of the creation. He sees the creation flowing from God, just as conclusions flow from principles in mathematics. God is free to create, but he is the immanent cause. The creation is but an extension. Prabhupada agrees with this. Well, I don't know about God cannot be a remote cause of creation, but the rest of it he agrees to. Yes, because Krishna creates through his energy, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhirevacha hankara ityame bina pakritirastata. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Then Prabhupada says, the material world is composed of these 8 material elements, and because it is made out of God's energy, it is called the creation of God. More directly, however, it is his energies that create the material universe. The ingredients come from him, and Prakriti, nature, causes God to both, and Prakriti, nature, creates. God is both the remote and immanent cause of the creation. So here he corrected Spinoza's statement. Spinoza's statement is, Spinoza asserts that God cannot be a remote cause of creation. But Prabhupada says he's both the remote and the immediate or immanent cause of the creation, because the elements are God's energy. So right away he corrected that, right? And next, the devotee says, Spinoza sees God as the universal principle that binds together all the relationships in the material world. Right away, Prabhupada says, if God is nothing but a principle, he has no personal activity. Is it that Spinoza is an impersonalist, right? Right away he caught it. As soon as the statement was given that Spinoza sees God as the universal principle. He didn't say person, it's a principle. Right? And then the devotee says, he states that God is the sum total of everything. Prabhupada, certainly God is everything, but why shouldn't we utilize discrimination? By saying that God is a principle like light, we imply that God is like a material thing. According to him, meaning Spinoza, what is man's position in relationship with God? See, right away, Prabhupada put his finger on the mistake. What is the mistake? Well, we just read that Spinoza thinks that he's a pantheist. He believes in the God of Spinoza, and Spinoza was a pantheist. He didn't believe that God is a person. Right? So now, when Prabhupada says, certainly God is everything, but why shouldn't we utilize discrimination? Okay, now you're going to see what he means by that. Discrimination means differentiating between things. Like, for example, everybody is not God, but everyone can be godly. That's a discrimination. Or God is energy and he's also the energetic. That's discrimination, right? You're seeing that not only he's energy, but he's the source of the energy, right? So Prabhupada says, why shouldn't we utilize discrimination? Devotee. Spinoza states that the infinite universe is like a machine, yet all things are conditioned to exist in a particular way, and this is necessitated by the divine nature. So, how to translate this gobbledygook statement? It means that Spinoza believes that there is determinism, that God is nature, and nature is functioning like a machine. that like a machine is devised by a person. So according to him, oh no, wait a minute. He says, like a machine, yet all things are conditioned to exist in a particular way. That's called determinism. Nature naturally has a deterministic function. That means that everything is controlled. That's what it means. Determinism means everything is controlled, but not by a person, by a principle. You see? So, Prabhupada, everything may be like a machine, but a machine is devised by a person. So according to him, who is God? Is God the machine or the person who devises the machine? Devotee. For him, God is the absolute universal principle behind everything. God is a thinking thing. This is, complete nonsense, right? Srila Prabhupada. If he is thinking, he must be the creator of that machine. Devotee. Yes, he says that God is the creator, but we cannot know anything beyond the fact that God is that thinking and extended thing. Because we are aware of mind and matter, God must be thinking, and God must have extension. He claims that man cannot know more than that about God. Extension means that God takes up space. So in other words, here's the limitation and the falsity. We cannot understand anything about God other than he takes up some space, and he can think, but he's not a person. He's a principle. This is nonsense, of course, and it's all speculation. This is Spinoza's. See, Einstein is accepting Spinoza as his guru, and Spinoza is a speculator. He's got a few little things right, and he's got many big things wrong, right? Okay. Srila Prabhupada, if God is everything, he must exist in space. That is understood. But it must also be understood that if God is thinking, he is a person. How can he simply be a principle? How can we say that God is nothing but a principle and yet is thinking? The sun is working according to certain principles. It has to be at a certain place at a certain time. There's no question of thinking. If I say that the sun, which is a principle, is thinking, I am contradicting myself. If God is reason, God is a person, not a principle. Has Spinoza not explained what that principle is? Devotee. He says that everything is God and that God is everything. Srila Prabhupada. That is logical. What is his conception of God? Is he a person or not? According to Vedic version, the person is the origin and the impersonal aspect is secondary. God is a person and his influence or his supremacy is in everything. Ishavaisham idam sarvam jadkinja jagatyam jagat tenatak tena punjitaha magritaha kasvidhanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Ishopanishad, Mantra 1. Prabhupada. Everything is made of God's energy, and therefore indirectly everything is God, yet at the same time everything is not God. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy of Achintya Beda Beda Abeda Tattva. Everything is simultaneously one with and different from God. Everything is God, but at the same time, we're not worshiping this table. We are worshiping the personal God. Although everything is God, we cannot necessarily conceive of God in everything. Okay. So then the devotee says, Spinoza says that we can appreciate God by intellectually appreciating all of his creation and therefore understanding that God is the perfect principle behind everything. In this way, we can have an intellectual love for God. Srila Prabhupada. God is a person. Otherwise, why are we worshiping the deity? What is the difference between the deity and this table? God has a personal form, but this table is not that form. Everything is the manifestation of God's energy. The Vishnu Purana gives the example of fire, which expands as light and heat. Light and heat are nothing but fire, but at the same time, light and heat are not fire. They are simultaneously one and different. God is everything, but everything is not God. Here it is. God is everything, but everything is not God. This table is God in the sense that it is part of God, but we cannot worship this table. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutes bhutani na chaham tesu vastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, meaning the Paramatma, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Bhagavad Gita 9.4. For instance, in the solar system, everything is resting on the sun's energy, but everything is not the sun. The sunshine is different from the sun, yet the sunshine is nothing but the sun. It is simultaneously one and different. This is perfect philosophy. Everything that is manifest is due to God, and when God withdraws his energy, there is no existence. It is insufficient to understand God simply as a principle. Spinoza says that God is a principle, but actually God is the supreme person. God expands his energy, and that energy is his principle. Devotee. God is identical with the substance of the world, the stuff the world is made of. Prabhupada. Yes, you cannot separate the energy from the energetic. That is one fact. But at the same time, you cannot say that the sunshine is the same as the sun. It is identical at the same time different. And at the same time different. Devotee. In a sense, Spinoza would agree in that he says there is a God who is substance, but who also has an infinite number of attributes unknown to man. Prabhupada. That's all right. But the attributes are simultaneously God and not God. There is substance and category. Gold is the substance, and a gold ring is the category. The gold ring is certainly gold, but the original substance, gold, is different. See how Prabhupada is so precise, right? He never goes off topic, right? Devotee. Spinoza would call God the substance and the things of this world the categories, because the categories are made of the substance, they are all God. Prabhupada. This clay pot is made of earth, but would you say that it is the whole earth? You may call it earthly, just as you may call the creation godly. That is pantheism. Now he's going to explain what pantheism is. Devotee. Spinoza writes, the more we understand individual objects, the more we understand God. Is this the proper process? Or is it that the more we understand God, the more we understand the individual objects? Prabhupada. Everything is related to God. In the material world, for instance, things are composed of 5 gross elements, which are expansions of God's energies. An intelligent person sees everything in relation to God's expansions of energy. A devotee does not look on anything as being separate from God. Since he is a lover of God, he wants to engage everything in God's service because he understands that everything is God's property. The asuras have no conception of God, nor do they obey or love God. The demoniac living entity thinks that the material world is created for his enjoyment. He does not see the material world as an expansion of God's energy. One who uses material products for his personal benefit is called a thief, because he does not acknowledge the proprietorship of the Creator, or God. If we do not consider everything to be prasada, the mercy of God, we become thieves subject to punishment. The conclusion is that the devotees see every material object related to God and tries to use everything for God's benefit. Devotee. The emphasis in Spinoza is on intellectual knowledge of God through self-knowledge. He writes, he who knows himself and knows his affections clearly and distinctly, and that with the accompaniment of the idea of God is joyous, for he knows and loves God. Through knowledge of the self, we can come to know something of God. In this way, man can be happy and love God. There is no mention of service, however. Prabhupada. Love means service. Love means service. By the way, that's on our food truck. When a mother loves her child, she renders him service. Dadati pratigrinanti guyam akyati prichati bhukte bhojayate chaiva sadvida vidim sadvidam pritilakshanam. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasada, and offering prasada are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. It's Shri Upadeshamrita. Okay, well, I'm going to stop right there and continue tomorrow. You see how significant this discussion is. You know, if you want to be a preacher, this is real preaching. Huh? Well, I mean, look, if you know these things, then people will be very appreciative because you're able to explain things correctly. Whereas these so-called philosophers and scientists, they've confused everything. They haven't clarified anything. They made it more confusing. Like Spinoza, and then someone like Einstein accepts Spinoza as, you know, the smartest guy in the world.
So because Prabhupada started with fundamental fact that Krishna is the source of everything, for him there is no ambiguity. And that's
and
why
he's not just a principle.
yeah, it's the truth. So
He's a person.
Yeah. And because of that, he is able to see through any argument and then see what is the inconsistency with the original truth.
Yes.
So that's why I think when we read Prabhupada's, I mean, he's able to cut through all the, as you
All
said,
the
gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only way. Otherwise, if intellectually people are debating, they will never reach any conclusion.
No, but see, Einstein's supposed to be the smartest person
Hmm.
in the world, right? While he was alive, people called him the smartest person in the world. But when he come to understanding his relationship with God, he's the dumbest, right? He doesn't really have any clear understanding. And he's making many assumptions that are wrong.
Yeah, because Prabhupada is fully convinced. I think you told me once, like
Yes.
if you fully convinced, you can able to convince others. So if you don't, little bit also pinch of doubt, you cannot be like able to convince
But to
other
get rid
people.
of all those doubts, you have to be able to see through all the false statements of
Yeah.
the philosophers and scientists and people like that.
One more thing I want to share, Maharaj. It's not a question, but since the kind of I was discussing or arguing on the yesterday's topic about Krishna's being biased or inclined toward or something.
Yeah.
And one thing I think I went back and was discussing with my wife, and then she told me like, oh, why can't you just think about that? It means he is biased and unbiased also. Like same thing, principle of achintya bheda bhed. So when you talks about Krishna, everything is like that. If you think that way, then it's very clear that he can be both. It's not like black and white when it comes to Krishna. So
You have to
everything.
be very careful because no, he's biased based on a particular point that he has a natural love for his devotees. He's not, you can be biased and unbiased. No, it's not biased and unbiased. There's a specific point. The point is that these are people who are sacrificing their lives to please the Lord. So it's not on the material level, like you can be biased and you can be unbiased. No. This is on the spiritual level of one's eternal relationship with Krishna. You have to understand the difference. If you say biased and unbiased, you're bringing it down on a lower level. You know, it's called whimsical. Sometimes he's biased, sometimes he's not biased. But no, this is on the spiritual level. It's the eternal relationship of the jiva to Krishna and Krishna's eternal gratitude for the jiva's, let's say, love. This is on the spiritual level. It's not on the material level. On the material level, someone can be biased and unbiased. You know, biased sometimes and unbiased sometimes. Just like my brother, he criticized me. He said, "You're a fanatic," but me, I'm in the middle. Sometimes on this side, and sometimes on that side. But just a little bit on this side, just a little bit on that side. You know, sometimes he does a little bit of Krishna consciousness, and sometimes he does a little bit of nonsense. That's a phony statement. That's not being real. That means that he's whimsical. He's nonsense. So he biased and unbiased. That's not the point. The point is that Krishna is functioning on the spiritual level, not on the material level. And a devotee who becomes dedicated to the Lord is functioning on a spiritual level. And therefore, it's natural that the Lord takes special interest in the devotee. You see my point? That with this biased, unbiased, that type of statement is implying that they're functioning whimsically on the material level. It has nothing to do with being spiritual. Yeah. Okay, Hari Bol. Oh, goes to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So Maharaj, sorry if you have 1 minute. There is an online question
Yeah.
from one of the devotee. Hare Krishna Maharaj, if there are people who are sincerely sacrificing Shiva or Devi, would they also be considered as devotees of Krishna? And
Well,
this
were you
follow-up
talking,
question.
is Shiva or Devi also devotees? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's the question?
Yeah, I can read again. So, if there are people who are sincerely sacrificing their lives for Lord Shiva or Devi, would they also be considered as devotees of
Okay,
Krishna?
no, the question is not that. If they're sacrificing their lives also for Shiva or Devi,
Yeah.
are they considered devotees?
Correct. Yeah, and there is second follow-up question.
No, the answer is if they consider Shiva and Devi as independent gods, the answer is no. If they worship Shiva or Devi as servants of Krishna, just like we worship Prabhupada as the servant of Krishna, the answer is yes.
Okay. Yeah, and there is a follow-up. And will Sri Krishna have the same bias towards them?
To those who are worshiping Shiva or
and
Devi.
Devi.
Not if they worship Shiva
Yeah.
and Devi as independent gods.
Okay. I mean, okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Right. If they worship them as a guru who's helping them come in touch with Krishna and to love Krishna, yes. If they worship them as an independent god, answer is no. Okay. You see how easy it is to misinterpret the question?
Yeah.
That's a very powerful point, Maharaj, that if you are considering independent to Krishna, then
Yeah, well, why does Krishna say in 7th chapter, verse number verse number 20, 21. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. And then verse number 22 says, endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and attain his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. And then he says, Antavat tu phalam te sam. Men of small intelligence worship demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So, therefore, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So basically it's saying that well, they're worshiping in the wrong way. That's the point. That's in the 9th chapter. Okay, one second. Let me just find that verse. Yeah. It says, I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. 9th chapter, 24th verse. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So, if you're worshiping a demigod and thinking that the demigod is God, then you're worshiping in the wrong way. And that's the previous verse, 9:23, that's the verse. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. And Prabhupada says in a purport, persons who are engaged in worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly, Krishna says. So they're worshiping in the wrong way. Right. Okay. Haribol.
Maharaj, one follow-up question. If someone is doing in the wrong way, worship to demigods, is it a gradual progression for them, or it's no?
Only if they're in contact with a bona fide guru.
In 3rd chapter it's mentioned, right? Like if someone is worshipping demigods, let them worship, and like they are gradually they will get purified. So they have, if they have understanding demigod is the god, Krishna is not the god, then
And they're not going to make any spiritual progress. They're going to make a little bit of progress, but see, they can only get free of that misconception if they come in contact with a bona fide guru. If they're just in contact with brahmanas who are performing the rituals, just like now they're performing all the rituals for Navaratri, right? So they're doing it because it's very, as far as money goes, it's very profitable, right? So they're not going to stop doing it. Or they're not going to say, you should worship Krishna, you shouldn't worship demigods. So you see, because the money incentive is there, they can't tell the truth, the brahmanas. Okay? There you go. Follow the money.
Shri Guru Charana Padma,
Shri Guru Charana Padma,
Kevala Bhakti Sadma, Banda Mohi Savadana Mate,
Malamu Hisavadana Mate,
Jahara Prasade Bhai, E Bhavatoriya Jai,
Janara Prasad
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoi De,
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite,
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya,
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Goriya
Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarvasa
Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se
Chaksudan Dil Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gyan Hirde Prakashito
Divya Gyan De Prakasito
Prema Bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jaite
Guru Karana Janara
Vede gai jahara charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Ha ha Prabhu Karo Daya De Hamare Pad Chaya
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deva Mure Padachaya
Ebe Jas Gushangri Bhuvana
Ebeyas Shakti Bhuvana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnarestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunne
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavani Paskatyate Satarine
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jaya Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Prajamaraj Gitsarhasta Tarasatra Shri Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace is Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath. Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Chamuna Maya ki jai, Samvita Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross.
My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection that fulfill all desire. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with a transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotee. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavan ki jai.